All right.
You guys had a few days off by now. Was that important to kind of recharge the batteries after a tough loss?
Yeah, anytime you play as many games as we have in the short amount of time, I think it's good to put the ball in the closet, so to speak, both mentally and physically. Guys needed rest. Luckily, we had an extra day this week, playing on Sunday versus Chicago, so good opportunity for us to get a couple days off.
Hockey update?
Hockey update. Played 90 minutes in the reserve game in Montreal. Very important that he get back in the game situations and get 90 minutes under his belt. That is so important to a player. Despite anything a player or a coach can do, you have to get in a game situation to really test your fitness, test your sharpness, get all those rhythms and sensations back. So very happy that he got that 90 minutes. We'll look for him to progress this week.
I mean, you had said last week that it was within the realm of possibility you could make the 18. That being said, now that he's been held out in the last game against Montreal, is it kind of nice to see that he might make his debut against his old team? Does that play into it at all?
Sure. I can't think of a better motivational game for a guy returning to the league and to have that chance to play against his old team. But that said, we still have to evaluate it this week, see where he comes along in training. It's certainly a possibility, and we're hopeful that he is available for that selection.
And then Chandler Hoffman played in the reserve game too. How did you ready to go on Sunday?
Chandler looked good. Same kind of situation with Chandler. To get 90 minutes coming off his injury was important. He played well. And again, now he'll be fighting for to get in the 18 and possibly even get in the starting lineup this week with Jack Wagner again out.
John, during the reserve game, Bakke was used sort of offensively on set pieces, pushed up into the box. You think that's something you guys will be looking to do when he gets in the lineup?
Yeah, look, we're probably if we're not the smallest team in the MLS, we're certainly one of the smallest teams in the MLS. So Bakke and just his physical stature is going to help on both sides of the ball and on restart opportunities.
By the sound of it, I guess there is going to be no appeal of Jack's right?
Well, the appeal process, look, I spent most of the morning on Monday having discussions with the league. And the appeal process of a red card goes to a panel who's represented by both the Canadian Federation, the Players Union, and the United States Soccer Federation. And, Pro, the Professional Referee Association, the U.S. Soccer Federation, and the Canadian Federation. So you have an individual off of all three of those organizations. And basically what that panel is charged with is that they have to find that there was an error in the rules. And by the letter of the law, a referee can eject a player for physically contacting another player, whether it's a push, whether it's a hit, whether it's a headbutt, or a kick. Then it has to be, hopefully the referee takes all those things into consideration. But by the letter of the law, it's up to the referee in that case. So it's really hard to basically fight that. And our decision was, and the process of going through an appeal is pretty complicated, and there's this, I don't want to get into all the details, but it's complicated, and our decision was to not appeal the red card because you don't want to waste a lot of time and energy. There's also a bond that each team has to put in with the league to prevent teams from constantly appealing things that are frivolous. So now that you have the lesson on how to appeal, I still don't even understand it fully. So, but the answer was no, we're not appealing it because we really don't think that we have an option to. It was a referee's decision, and we have to abide by that. Hopefully, the league and everybody that I just mentioned looks at that particular case and maybe makes an example out of it for referees and coaches and players going forward.
And You almost forget that Jack is still in his teens, even though his play has progressed. So do you use this almost as a teachable moment for guys like Antoine and Chandler who are in their first year in the league?
Yeah, every situation like this is certainly teachable. And I hope that Jack has learned from this incident. But this one's a fine line because, you know, when I watch the videotape of that back and forth, he hardly makes any contact, okay? There's a Montreal player who makes a lot more contact after Jack pushes Rivas, and it's much more violent. And that player doesn't get anything. There's not a yellow card given, there's not a red card given, there's nothing. So it's hard to, as a player and a coach, to look at that situation and say, hey, one player is punished for this, another player is punished for something else, and yet another player goes completely unpunished. And that's what I think, you know, hopefully the league and the referees and coaches, we can all get to a point where those decisions are much more consistent, because then that makes it much easier. It's a little complicated to go through all of those and say that they're equal punishment. I mean, in that game, we have a player that's ends up breaking his nose, and we're both down to 10 men. But, you know, one team's healthy and one team's got 10 men where the guy's got a broken nose on the field. So I don't see how that's, you know, equal in any way, shape, or form. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Hopefully they don't write that so I don't get fined by the league.
John, coaches don't, they don't love the term must win, but it's Sunday must win for you guys.
Look, we always want to win, so I would say yes, it is. However, you know, we have enough games in hand at this point, and there's enough games left in the season that a lot can happen. We think playing at home is so important, and we have done well here at home, and we're going to continue to try to do so. So for our locker room, yeah, we want to approach it that way. In the reality, we just want to take it one game at a time because we know there's so much more left to play for. And we've also talked about when you don't pick up points like we did this last week in Montreal, how do you then turn the scale a little bit on the other side and pick up a point here and there where you don't have a greatest shot at doing so. But at home, you know, we want to make sure we maximize our points. And this is certainly another 6-pointer in that regard.
Antoine has a broken nose. Do you think he's definitely good to go? And is there anyone else who might be out?
Antoine's good. The fracture that Antoine has is not your typical broken nose. It's more on the side of his nose, from what I understand from the medical staff. And he is able and was able to play today with only a slight discomfort. So he went through the full training, and we hope that he'll be fine. We have to kind of see how he recovers from today and everything, but our feeling right now is that he'll be okay. Everybody else is feeling pretty healthy.
How likely is it that a guy like Carlos, among others, won't be available Sunday with International Day coming out?
You know, we got to figure that out with Carlos. We're still trying to finalize his travel plans with the Colombian Federation. So we hope that he's available for us on Sunday, and if he's not, we'll deal with it. Right now, we don't know that.
Is there anybody else who could be a question mark because of call-ups?
Gomez and Keon Daniel are the 2 others.
And not having Jack Mack, I think he was talking about just what that means and how much that could hurt him.
Yeah, Jack's been so important to our run of form recently. So not having him is a big loss. He's been one of those guys that you know, has been in the lineup consistently and really you know, executing when we need him. But his work ethic off the ball has been fantastic. And so all of those things you have to replace. What that does is it opens up an opportunity for another young attacking player to get a shot and prove himself this Sunday.
Coach, back to Montreal real quick. You guys were shut out, but it wasn't for lack of opportunities. Do you stress finishing in training this week, or is it something you just put behind you?
No, we try to make sure we stress finishing every week. It's something that you just need a lot of repetitions in front of goal in a variety of ways. So that's something we'll always put a premium on in our training and our preparation. But when it comes down to a game like Montreal and you get the chances that we got and don't finish, it's unfortunate, but that happens. I've said it before, it can be a cruel game at times, and we had two really great chances in the first half to go up there, and hadn't given up much at that point, if anything. So not finishing those really hurt me in the end. So we'll look to rebound, and we have in the past month and a half when that's happened.
John, you had a decent amount of road fans come up. Talk about how that can be a helpful factor. Because it was about 100 something came up for you guys.
Look, anytime the fans come up and support you on the road, it's a huge motivation for the players and for the staff. I mean, it's nice to be in a stadium, and that was a great environment on Saturday. The place was packed for Montreal, and their fans were pretty loud, but and you had a big section of Philly Union fans, most of them the Sons of Ben, and it was fantastic. And even if while we didn't get the result, at the end of the game they cheered and sang and did everything they normally do, and that was fantastic. So I know myself and the coaching staff and the players are all very appreciative of that kind of support.
How do you approach Chicago this weekend?
Look, Chicago is a good team, and right now they're in a great position. They're in the 5th place spot in the East, and they've made some changes to their lineups. They're a different team than the team we saw earlier in the year, and so are we. We got to prepare for them the best way possible. We have an extra day, as I said earlier, which we want to take full advantage of, but we'll be ready to go by Sunday for sure. Good.
Any questions from the floor?
Yeah. John, this mark our duty. I just have a quick question on one of their players, Dan Gard. I know he didn't play last week, but could you talk about him? He's been around the league for a while, and just, I don't know, anything you see of his game?
Yeah, Dan's I have a lot of respect for Dan Gard. He's a player that consistently finds a way to be effective. He's played a lot of different positions, so he's versatile. And when he gets his opportunity, he's certainly a great competitor. Don't know whether Chicago will use him this week. They had a good result, and he didn't feature in the starting lineup. But he's played very well here, obviously, in the past, and he'll be somebody we would prepare for as well.
Thank you.
Somebody else had a question?
Yeah, it's Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
Question on the playoff race. I mean, obviously the goal is to get back into that hunt. Have you, in your head or on paper, kind of done the math of, we think we need this many points, or, to get into that playoff spot?
Yes, several times a day, and in my sleep. I do that quite frequently. But a lot of that, is so out of our control that sometimes it's just a pointless exercise. What we have to do, we have to make sure that every time we play, we try to maximize our points right now. The East this year has proven to be very strong. So unlike the last 2 years where you could lose a couple games and still be right in the hunt, if you lose points on any given weekend right now, you're falling farther and farther behind. So going into it, we started off pretty deep down the table. All we can do is try to take care of business every weekend.
You have a number you care to share?
No, because I think that number is going to change, and I want my players and our staff focused on Chicago only. And that's, to me, the only way. Look, I said this in a previous press conference, that we were looking at 3 game blocks, and we were trying to estimate how many points out of those blocks we wanted. But things have changed even since we started that exercise, which is why I do it so many times a day, because it has changed. And if you would have told me that Houston Dynamo would have 40 points at this point in the season, if you would have said that to me 3 weeks ago, I would have told you were crazy. So the East has kind of taken off, and the top teams have changed a little bit here and there, which is great for our conference. And at the moment, we'd like that to turn around and have some of those teams come back to us.